Thank you. Unfortunately, Victoria cannot attend. She's at the Venice Biennale doing some presentations there.
Hello, my name is
Wait,
Victoria Szabo.
go ahead and stop for a second. So Victoria has supplied a video. Now, I'm on this committee, and a number of things she's going to be talking about are initiatives that I started or I'm managing, and so feel free to ask any questions to me as well. But let's go ahead and hear what Victoria has to say. She's the chair of our committee.
I'm the chair of the ACM SIGGRAPH Digital Arts Community. ACM SIGGRAPH stands for the Association for Computing Machinery's Special Interest Group on Computer Graphics and Interactive Techniques. You can find out more about us on our website at dac.siggraph.org. Our mission is to foster year-round engagement and dialogue within the digital, electronic, computational, and media arts. We facilitate dynamic scholarship and creative programming within the ACM SIGGRAPH organization. Our goal is to promote collaboration between artists and the larger computer graphics and interactive techniques community. Here's a list of our committee members. I'm the chair, as I mentioned, and then our group also includes Liliana Conless-Gallegos, Johannes de Jong, Sue Gollifer, Kathy Ray Huffman, Bonnie Mitchell, Valenti Pandolowski, Jan Serlman, Rebecca Rouge-Shu, and we also have two design interns, Mariana Martinez and Mitsurico Montserrat. They helped create our wonderful new logo that we just shared with you a moment ago. One thing that's really interesting to know about our group is that we're very international with different perspectives on and experiences with digital art and its relation to computer graphics and interactive techniques. Some of us come from more artistic backgrounds, while others more technical, and others with a strong media studies or media theory orientation. We're artists, academics, curators, educators, activists, technologists, designers, and critics, and so are our members. Many of us are all of these things at various times and would hesitate to be limited to any one of these definitions. Also, many of our group have served and continue to serve on committees and programs at SIGGRAPH, both in the year-round group and at our annual conferences. And of course, you probably know some of them as familiar names from the Isaiah community as well. The first thing I want to talk about in terms of the DAC organization efforts and activities are our digital exhibitions. We've been organizing these juried online exhibitions now for over a decade. They provide an opportunity for our community members to participate in the year-round activities of the organization, to share their work, and to expand the digital arts conversation beyond what's possible to include at our annual conferences, which is really only a fraction, a sliver of what happens in this space. Some of our most recent exhibitions include those that you're seeing here: The Earth Our Home, Digital Power, Activism, Advocacy, and the Influence of Women Online, Designing Knowledge, Origins and Journeys, which was tied to a SIGGRAPH art show, annual art show, and Immersive Expressions, which was a VR show that we did a few years ago. And our upcoming show, Future Past versus Coloniality, Decolonial Media Art Beyond 530 Years, is something that's going to be starting up in December, so we'll share more information about that in a bit. Some of our earlier topics would include Science of the Unseen, Altered Books, Enhanced Vision, The Aesthetics of Gameplay, Environments, Nature, and Constructed, and Analogs is the New Digital. Most of these sites exist in some form still live now, although as we go along, part of what we're discovering is that digital art history is not just art history being done through digital art, but also the history of digital art is a challenge and opportunity for all of us to think through. And some of our members have been involved in partnerships around that topic as well. Just to say a little bit more about a few of our recent exhibition projects, the Digital Power, Activism, Advocacy, and the Influence of Women Online was a great example of how we started to create a whole life cycle around our exhibitions. We might have an event or an activity or a conversation, a formal exhibition, follow-up conversations and discussions, and then subsequent thematized activities as well. That's certainly been the case with Digital Power, which was a collaborative effort led by Kathy Ray Huffman and included artists from a wide range of modalities, generations, and interests. Work on this project also laid the groundwork for other projects like the new exhibition that I mentioned earlier. Another of our recent exhibitions, The Earth Our Home, Art, Technology, and Critical Action, was co-curated by Bonnie Mitchell and Jan Selman, and it launched in January with a special event online and will continue to be featured in our programming throughout the year. Even in the case of our online exhibitions, we find that there's so much more going on in the field than we can even begin to grasp through this expanded network of curation opportunities, and we learn more all the time about what's happening. Worth noting about both of these exhibitions is that they have both a critical and an activist edge. yet without foregoing our aesthetic, design, and technical interests. It's an interesting mix to be grappling with, especially in these complex and troubled times, and something that we look to carry forward and have conversations about with our Isaiah, Leonardo, and friends and others. I mentioned we have an upcoming exhibition, the Future Past versus Coloniality, Decolonial Media Art Beyond 530 Years. This will be headed up by Liliana Konlis-Gallegos and follows upon a successful panel discussion at SIGGRAPH 2021 and one of our online virtual Sparks meetings, which I'll talk about in a moment. As I said, we anticipate launching the submission site this summer in time for SIGGRAPH 2022 and hope to have the actual exhibition up in time for SIGGRAPH Asia in December. So I've mentioned Sparks. Sparks stands for Short Presentations of Artworks and Research for the Kindred Spirit. It's a monthly series of online presentations that take place usually on the last Friday of the month at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We started doing Sparks sessions during COVID times as a way to foster connections amongst our far-flung and often isolated communities. What we discovered is that this opened up a much broader conversation, extending the same ethos that motivated us to create the online exhibitions in the first place, but allowing us to go even further and to touch upon a wide range of topics with a relatively low stakes intervention, and also to reach out to people around the world. I'm continually surprised by the fact that people are logging in the middle of the night or the wee hours of the morning in order to participate in these sessions, both as presenters and as participants or simply observers. So this works similarly to the way our online exhibitions do. Each session is organized by 2 or 3 people, often with committee members leading the way, but also sometimes with external collaborators who help to bring new perspectives into the project. We put out a call for presentations, select a subset to share, refine the theme after seeing what the submissions look like, and then have 8 to 10 people do 5-minute talks all in a row. Usually we have a buzzer or chime involved to cut people off. And then after a dizzying array of fascinating projects, we open up the discussion for question and answers. Usually we finish up in around 2 hours. The sessions are recorded with full permission and put online on our website for later sharing. This resource provides a first pass at some topics, a way to touch it again upon recurring interests, and sometimes surprises us with new ideas and directions to pursue. Some of the most meaningful and exciting conversations I've had with the digital arts community over the last few years have been through Sparks, and maybe even before that as well. We do continue to look for new topics and collaborators and hope we can find some through our connections here. Our upcoming June Sparks is on rediscovering and reimagining culture, digital art practice in Asia, and will be exceptionally held late Thursday, June 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, which is Friday, June 24th at 9 a.m. in Beijing. Some of the other recent topics that we've done have included experimental and animated animation, exploring artistic possibilities, decolonial media art, as I mentioned earlier, artist games, critical and creative approaches in new media art. Earlier in the year, we had a conversation with Stellark, heading off with a special session introducing the Earth Our Homes exhibition in January. Last year's topics included within the frame, continuation of the still image, and data, visual perception, interpretation, and truth. Before that, we took on creative coding, generative algorithmic art, and the exploration of authorship and music in social VR, education, installation, conference, and performance, which was a special presentation session. Before that, art, science, and the invisible world we live in, and robotics, electronics, and the artificial intelligence. Then in a few sessions, and you'll begin to see the through lines I was talking about here, we took on environmental issues, sustainability, and climate change, and immersion, interactivity, and altered realities. So you see these recurring themes that are tied to some extent to the interests of our committee members. And this is to highlight the fact that being involved in our group involves not just organizing or fostering community, but also being able to actively engage with our own topics of interest with a wide and diverse network of fellow travelers. The first ever Sparks we did was called Screen Worlds, Net Art and Online Communities, and showcased an historical dimension of our work, something that we'll return to next year at SIGGRAPH annual conference, which is celebrating 50 years of the conference itself. I mentioned the annual conference is coming up, SIGGRAPH 2022. We'll be formally in August in Vancouver, 8th to 11th. We anticipate having some online opportunities before that, as well as some on-site experiences as well. We'll be posting more information about our schedule for the conference activities on our website. And don't forget about SIGGRAPH Asia, which is coming up in December and which is accepting submissions now. Finally, I just want to say a word about community. Community is at the heart of what the Digital Arts Group does. We have a few different ways that you can stay connected and get involved. We have a Ning website at sigrapharts.ning.com. We have a Facebook group. In addition, we are launching our digital arts Instagram in the coming week. And finally, I will just talk about connections. This is where I really want to turn it over to Bonnie Mitchell, who will be there with you in person and who can tell you a little bit more about the history projects and the archives projects that she's been working so actively on. And also to encourage you all to talk amongst yourselves and to reach out to us if you have any questions about the digital arts community or you want to get involved. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some of what's happening in the ACM SIGGRAPH digital arts community. I look forward to seeing many of you in Paris next year.